Hey guys, TommyBryson here, and today I want to break down exactly how the BRRRR strategy works when it comes to real estate investing and building wealth as fast as possible. I'm going to break down exactly how it works, what you need, the good, the bad, and also the ugly in a non-biased way, okay? And on top of that, I post videos every single day on this channel, so make sure to also subscribe and hit the bell so you're notified. On top of that, also destroy the like button for the YouTube algorithm. Thank you guys so much. Now, the first thing you need to know is this, okay? Tommy, what exactly is the BRRRR strategy? By the way, it's BRRRR, B-R-R-R-R. So it's 4 R's right there. And it stands for you buy a property, you rehab it, you rent it, you refinance, and then you go ahead and you basically repeat the entire process. And that's why we have here 4 R's. BRRRR, okay? That sounds kind of weird, I know, but we know what we're talking about here, okay? Now, before I tell you exactly how this works and how you can do it yourself, the answer is you need to know exactly what you need to be able to actually do this. And you need 3 things. The first thing is you need a pretty good credit score of around is 680 and above. Now, 700, I actually recommend it. Above that, even better. 750, even better, the best. And the answer is the better your credit score, the better your rates for your mortgage, and that way you save more money when it comes to your payments every single month. On top of that, you need to have a down payment for the house you actually want to buy of around 20%, and that's what I recommend. But the answer is, okay, if you don't have that much money right now, then you can always go ahead and save it up, make a savings goal, and save up that 20% for that down payment. By the way, by putting down 20%, you avoid some of the entire like mortgage insurance fees, okay? That's also something that's going to give you more freedom when it comes to how much profits you actually get to make. And the last thing you need is basically a solid job to show like, hey, I have income coming in, and on top of that, make sure you don't have a lot of debts, because basically, if you have a great credit score, a down payment, a solid job, but you basically have a lot of debts, the answer is they probably will not qualify you, because basically your debt to income ratio is going to be off, okay? So basically, just make sure you have all these things right here intact. However, if you don't have these things right here intact, there is always an alternative, which is actually a lot more harder, but also in a way a lot more easier, although it is a little bit more time consuming. And that is basically, you can always go out there and get, for example, an FHA loan. And the idea is with an FHA loan, you don't need the best credit score. If 580 is fine. For example, a down payment of only like 3.5%. And also, all you really need to have is a nice job, maybe not that much debt also, but the answer is it's a lot more easier to qualify for an FHA loan, because basically the government is securing it than going to qualify, for example, a normal traditional loan. So keep that in mind. But there is a catch to the FHA loan, and the answer is you need to stay on the property for a minimum of 1 year. And on top of that, there are a little bit more fees when it comes to having an FHA loan. So the answer is if you do go ahead and buy a property and try to do the entire like BRRRR strategy, you can't just buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat, because basically you need to live on that property for a full year. So it's more like, hey, you buy the property, you rehab it, you stay in it for 1 year, and then you go ahead and the whole refinancing and doing the entire process, okay? That's the idea here. Although you can refinance while you are still in the property, but you can't actually go ahead and rent it because you need to stay there for a minimum of 1 year with the entire FHA loan. So keep that in mind. Now, let's break down exactly how the BRRRR strategy works and how you can actually use it to go ahead and build your wealth when it comes to real estate. Now, there are 2 ways to actually do the strategy, and the first way is to go out there and buy properties like these that are messed up and need a ton of work. Or for example, you can buy a property like this that don't really need that much work, but do need some love and care, for example, for cosmetic issues. And that way you up the value to what it is in the area, okay? You can either do like the extreme rehabbing, or for example, hey, let me fix the carpeting, the flooring, the kitchen needs some reworking. That's about it, okay? Like cosmetic stuff, or the extreme way. Now, by the way, the extreme way is more complicated, and that's why in this video, I'm only taking care of like the cosmetic issues and a simple way to actually do the entire BRRRR strategy. Now, the first step to the BRRRR strategy is obviously the B, and the B stands for buy. Now, whenever you buy a property, your whole goal is to buy a property in an area that's a good area and also has good property values. And the idea is you buy a property that's below the entire area, that's actually going for lower, you fix it up and you bring it back up to the normal property value that's in that area, or even just a little bit more. But that's the entire concept when it comes to actually buying one of these properties. But you want to make make sure also that when you buy a property, all of the expenses combined are not going to be more than 1/3 of your take-home pay every single month, because basically if it's any more than that and you have like a vacancy, the answer is you might be in trouble and you might have to pay that plus your rent, and then you might have a massive problem. Now, one thing is this, okay, whenever you're buying, for example, in a good area, it's growing, population is actually going up, the answer is it's probably going to be very expensive and you'll be paying a premium. Now, a strategy I've seen is, for example, that Graham Stephan basically buys a property not in the prime area, but basically like 5 to 10 minutes away, where people that work in that area are actually going to live. And that way, as time passes, his area that's 5 minutes away basically starts growing also in value. So always consider, for example, if right here is the area where everyone wants to live and actually work but can't afford it, why don't I just buy 5 to 10 minutes away for cheaper, and then basically rent there, because everyone that works here wants to live over here because it's more cheaper. And that way, step by step, the properties in my area also start to go up in value. And that's something that basically Graham Stephan also does. So keep in mind, this does not work if you basically buy a property that's too expensive in a bad area and it's not going to go up in value. And on top of that, everyone in that area is actually selling their houses and trying to move somewhere else, okay? And the only time this happens is, for example, whenever someone buys basically by emotion. I love this property, I want it, it has to be my first deal. In reality, just remember, you're basically making an investment, a very expensive one. So just go based on the math and make sure all the numbers lined up. And if it doesn't, well, just walk away and go look at more deals. Usually, it'll take around like 50 to 100 deals to find that one property you actually want to actually buy and actually makes sense financially to go ahead and buy. Now, the second part of the BRRRR strategy is basically the rehab. Now, the rehab on YouTube always seems pretty simple, okay? You buy the property, it needs some work, you rehab it, the property value goes up immensely, okay? Oh my gosh, very simple. But in reality, the rehab portion is the most difficult, because basically, if you make a mistake, or for example, it ends up being more expensive, then it might cost you a ton more money and put you out of budget, and then the numbers no longer make sense. So I always recommend, when you buy a property and you have, for example, an estimate, always add, for example, a margin of safety in case something does go wrong and you need to spend more money on the property. For example, I saw a video with Graham Stephan. He bought a property and basically the layout of the property had an entire issue where to get to one bedroom, you had to go through another bedroom. So you had to change the entire layout and then add another bathroom. Before you know it, he spent a ton of money. But because he had a margin of safety and he's also buying a nice area, he'll probably get it back when he actually refinances everything, okay? So keep that in mind whenever you're going ahead and buying a property. Now, one person that does this very well is basically Meet Kevin, okay? Now, Meet Kevin basically, for example, buys a property with some cosmetic issues that no one wants to deal with, but because he knows everything about the game, he can basically fix it up and make a ton of money. So if you don't know what you're looking at when you go to a property, come with a contractor or a buddy that knows exactly what they're looking at, and that way you get to know exactly, hey, so this means this means this. But again, the rehab process is the most important one, because if you don't have the right estimates, it'll throw your numbers all the way off, and before you know it, you're paying money out of pocket every single month because basically your numbers were not correct. Now, the third part of the BRRRR strategy is basically the rent, the most important part here. Now, say for example, you want to buy a property and the mortgage is, for example, maybe $700 every single month, right? So you're renting it for around $1,100. After you rehabbed and everything looks great, the idea is you're making a profit around $400 every single month. And that's the core idea. So whenever you rent, you want to make sure you actually make a profit. Now, in this example right here, obviously, it's not realistic because basically you also have, for example, yeah, you have the mortgage, you also have insurance, property taxes, and on top of that, maintenance in case anything does break, and things do break. So the answer is there are a lot more things to put into your numbers, but the whole goal is to make sure you actually get a good ROI and the down payment you actually put down for the house. Let me explain here, okay? Say, for example, I put down $40,000 on a property. You might say, well, I put down $40,000, but I'm making, for example, $50 in profit every single month. So in reality, it's not that bad. Well, yeah, it is bad, and here's why. Because if you put down, for example, $40K, right? But all you're getting is, for example, in profit is $50 a month times 12. That's only around like $600 every single year. Now, when we get, for example, the return on your investment of your $40K, well, divided by $40K, it means your profit is only around 1.5%. So basically, every single year, your 40K is losing money basically by the rent measurement, okay? So your whole goal is to basically say, well, what happens if, for example, my property gives me a profit of around $300 every single month, right? That's awesome. So $300 times 12, it means that every single year you're making $3,600 in profit, not including, for example, all the other benefits, depreciation, all this stuff. Obviously, okay, it's very simple math here. Now the answer is your 40K investment basically means that, hey, that means that every single year I'm getting a 9% return on my money, and that is what you want. You want, for example, a return on your money from the rent, and also a return on your money from the appreciation of the property every single year also, if we are in a good market. But that's the whole goal. Anything less than 7% or 6%, usually your money is kind of like dead, not really that great. But around like 7% and above, your money is good, and it's basically good to go, because basically you cover the taxes and also, for example, the entire inflation, okay? So keep that in mind. So the profit is very, very important. And also remember, you also have to take into account vacancies just in case anything does happen, okay? So keep that in mind when it comes to your numbers and your projections, okay? Always, always become a numbers person, because that way you don't make mistakes. Now, the next part is basically refinancing the property, and that's the third R in the entire BRRRR strategy. Now, this is where things get interesting. The whole goal is that, for example, you bought a property for $160,000 here, and you paid $40K to fix it up, right? So your total cost is around like $200K, and in reality, another property is worth around $250K. It means that when you go to the bank and you refinance, the idea is they're going to give you back $90,000, because basically your new value is $250,000. Now that 40K is going to cover, for example, your expenses, but you'll also have, for example, 50K in new money to go ahead and carry out the new step. The new step is basically repeat the last step. The last R here, and you go ahead, you grab that 50K, you use it as a down payment, and also money to actually do the entire rehab again, and that's how the entire BRRRR strategy basically works. Okay, you want to buy a property in a good area, but it's also like undervalued. Okay, you get a discount that way. You fix it up, you bring it back to its real value, then you go ahead and you rent it for a profit, then you refinance it, then you go ahead and you rinse and repeat. You take that money from the refinance and you basically go ahead and rinse and repeat. By the way, right now in 2020, there is a refinancing tax, so keep that in mind. By the way, before you do any of this stuff, okay, I highly recommend meet Kevin. Like, that's a YouTuber here on YouTube. He has a course on real estate. I'm taking it also. It's a great course. Consider buying that course. It's great. If you don't have that much money to spend on a course, just go ahead and buy the book called The Book on Rental Property Investing, and the guy's name is Brandon Turner. It's a great book. I'm going to link it down below, and that way you know exactly everything you need to know about buying rental property and how everything works. And if you're wondering, Tommy, are you going to do the exact same strategy? The answer is yes. When I buy my first property, I'm going to buy a property with some cosmetic issues, fix it up, and then basically up the value a little bit more. And then once I do that, I might refinance and get, for example, that money out and go ahead and buy some more investments with it, okay? That's the cool thing about real estate. It's a very cool way to build income and also to build wealth. But right now, my main focus is probably on the stock market, and that's why I'm also investing in the stock market. And I also have videos on that, which I'm going to link down below also. But guys, that's about it for this video. If you like this video, well, comment down below and let me know. And on top of that, also comment down below and let me know if it was helpful. And if you have any questions, also comment down below and let me know. That way I can actually help you. I answer all my comments. And before I go, make sure to also like this video if you liked it. Also, if you're new here, subscribe and hit the bell so you're notified. And also follow me on my Patreon, link down below, for example, on Instagram at TommyBryson. And if you want to learn exactly how to save for a down payment, well, here's that video right here. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for watching, and as always, peace.